Hey everyone, I'm going to give an update on our shed. Did a video a long time ago about how we built out storage in the shed and kind of how we stored things, and we've added a pretty significant upgrade to that. With a family with 3 kids that are all growing older, the bikes are getting bigger, accumulating more toys, more stuff, and we needed some storage. And I had some leftover plywood, so I figured I'd build some simple shelves. Figured I'd walk through how we did it, why we did it the way we did, and how it's improved things. Again, probably should have taken a before picture, but all this storage here has stayed roughly the same. This is just our tools. Essentially, we had all of the bikes up against the back wall here. They were hanging on hooks and they were propped up against the back wall. And I just realized that that was essentially pushing things out into the middle of the shed. We would end up stacking up the mower and other things behind it, and we just didn't. Essentially, the floor of the shed was covered with stuff. We had fertilizer kind of down in that corner, just sitting on the floor, and so the goal here was to get things up off the ground, create some more space, remove the number of things hanging. You can see the hooks there. I had tons of stuff just kind of dangling. It was kind of like a horror shed. You just had chainsaws hanging and saws and different things, buckets hanging from the ceiling. So I figured shelving was a better way to address that problem, and you can see we've moved, lots of buckets, sprayer, bags of things that may have been on smaller shelves before. And the overall organization here was to push stuff to the back, make things accessible, so you can walk in, get to the shelf, get to the bikes, get to things hanging on the side, and not have anything really obstructed. There's a couple things that are kind of blocked in. We have a couple really big, infrequently used items. The air compressor's in here. Don't really use it in here, but I don't want it in the garage. I don't have room for it in the garages. And so, same with the water pressure washer, which we recently fixed. Probably flip those since the pressure washer kind of sits above that shelf. I'd like it kind of back in the corner and just out of the way as much as possible. But the shelf was designed so that the air compressor would fit perfectly underneath it, and then each of the shelves is 16 has 16 inches of clearance between the top of the plywood and the bottom of the 2x4 to get buckets in and various boxes and things like that. Probably could have made it a little tighter, but it's good enough. And the way we did this, I debated a couple different ways. I think in retrospect, I probably would have made the shelves a little bit deeper. They are 16 inches deep. This was partially because with the amount of plywood we had, if I did 16 inches, I could get 3 cuts across a 4x8 sheet of plywood. And with the scrap that we had, we didn't have full lengths. You can see all these are arc cuts. There's 2 panels on each one. So what I actually did was build the shelf in a box. It's just a box. So I've got a 16-inch 2x setting the width, and then these are like 73 inches, I think, which was mainly set so that we hit a floor joist, so it lands on a floor joist at the bottom for support. So I built those on the ground, and then we just lifted them in place and held them in place. I put a little block underneath of them so I could do it with a helper. Lifted those platforms in place and then nailed them to the back. Got all 3 of them in place and then just added a single brace. So it's pretty simple. I wish I'd taken a video of building one, but those are 2 8-foot 2x4s with a 16-inch end cut off of one of the 2x4s for the ends, and then a 73-inch length 2x4. So built the box just on the ground here where it was nice and flat, put the plywood on top, and then lifted it in place and nailed it in place, and then added the vertical brace here in the corner that's not supported. Went pretty quick. I've got a cordless DeWalt circular saw and went ahead and used a framing nailer with the air compressor. There's no screws in any of this. It was all nailed together and went together. We did this in probably 2 or 3 hours and added a ton of storage. I think one improvement I might make, I really like how the Ego stuff is all hanging on the wall. I'll show one little thing we changed there that was really helpful. I may extend it from here to there with the exact same size. So 16 inches out from the wall and just extend it into an L shape shelf. Not certain about that. We'll see. We'll see if it makes sense. Then we could get this to go under a shelf. I don't really have a great place for the spreader right now. I'd like it to be up and out of the way. This is kind of a jumbled mess over here. Things just kind of hanging. But it's actually a little more organized than it seems, and it's way better than it was before. This Weehoo is fantastic, and it's just kind of stuck up there on a little hook, and then the hand truck is out of the way. And my bike's the biggest one, so I'm going to go ahead and store it vertically. I can get it down easily, but everybody else's bikes fit pretty well in here. We have we used to have electric scooters in here. We have 2 electric scooters and a little kind of electric mini bike thing. I'd love to make them fit. The plan was to make them fit over here, which they would. We brought this shelf back mainly because we had ball storage that works really well in there, and this container of just stuff, and we could fit all that on the shelves. I think we may end up clearing some space. There's actually, I think there's 2 empty buckets here. This one is almost empty, and those 2 are pretty much empty. So I may end up clearing all that out and putting electric stuff in here. But for now, we just put the shelving back in place and kind of decide on that decision later. And then there's just some messy stuff hanging on the wall, which will improve. But overall, this has been a huge improvement. It's amazing how much a small little project like this can really, really improve things. There's one other thing I was going to mention. Oh, the Ego blower, they sell mounts for this on Amazon. And I got to looking at the actual thing. I was curious how the mount attached. And you can see there, it has a built-in mounting place right there. So the little mounts you can buy on Amazon, just slide into that and hold it in place. And they probably have a V that matches that. But turns out a large lag bolt with a little bit of a washer built into it works perfectly. So one hand, slide it down, and it's good. It's like really good. Ended up going sideways. Could have gone vertically here, but then I think it probably would have twisted and rotated. So I caught enough of the 2x4 here to be able to put that lag bolt in, and it works great. And then we got a new string trimmer. Just picked this up from somebody on Facebook Marketplace. It's a little bit better than the one we had. It's got the carbon fiber shaft, or I don't know if it's actual carbon fiber, but and I think it's a little bit bigger head. I think it's a 16-inch instead of 15-inch, and it has the auto reel. When you're refilling it, it refills better. But it also has a very simple nail hole on the top. So if you take a look at it there, it just has a classic nail hole mount that you can slide in, and it's if I didn't have something below it here, this would be a little easier. But it's actually not too bad. Let me get this out of the way and I'll do that again. It makes it quite easy to store. It's not perfect, it's not super stable, but I mean, to get it up off the ground and not have to have a special mount, yeah, it's actually easier than I'm getting it every time. I'm just not realizing it. Yeah, so it goes in really, really well. So that was great. I mean, just little things like that. We had some clutter in here. I had 2 of those in here, and they were just standing on their ends, which is terrible because they roll all over the place and fall down. And so it's not like we were doing a perfect job organizing things before, but with a little bit of intentionality in a small project, and this has really improved things. We still have some stuff up above, which I've shown this in another video, kind of just some hacks on how to store stuff. I was having a hard time storing fishing poles. There's all kinds of creative ideas on fishing poles. And I didn't want to build some specific thing for each one, so I just put just a 1x4 across the floor joist there for the second story, and have these little shelves kind of built in just for little pockets everywhere. And that combo makes for a really nice way to store fishing poles. We don't fish often at all, but we have them, so it's good to store that. And then we got some longer things. You can see an umbrella here, storage umbrella, which it's a little hard to get out, but it works. It gets it up out of the way. It's truly out of the way and not on anything. And then we've got this little pole, which is used. It's got a hook on the end of it, which we use for getting our bird feeders down from really high. And then, you know, stuffed snowboards and chairs up that way. So it's all pretty dense, but it works. It works, and I'm pretty happy with the amount of sort of organization versus clutter. And this was a huge improvement. So I'm going to keep tweaking things in here. I'll probably make a couple improvements in the coming weeks, and I'll post some videos about that. But I know there's a lot of like idealistic organizational tips, but they aren't always practical. And I think, you know, it's a combination between looking really good in a picture, which a ton of those organization tips do, and actually being practical and usable. And I think we're trying to get to a combination that's very practical and usable. It also looks pretty good, but little things like just battery storage. I mean, we just put a 2x6 in here, and now we've got a place to store all the Ego batteries. I've gotten a couple questions about this from friends and my kids. I keep a socket here next to the Ego stuff that is designed for the that fits the blade size. I've got extra sockets for everything, and I just keep an actual socket and bit here. So all I have to do is bring the impact driver out, and I can change the blade without having to go hunt for the right socket every time. Little things like that has, made things quite a bit easier, and I keep an extra set of blades there, so they're sharp and easy to change. So that's it. We'll do another video as we do more storage projects. We're going to be redoing our entire shop here soon and adding storage that's really intentional for working on cars out there, and we'll give an update. I'll do a better job of doing a before and after on that because it's going to be quite an improvement. That's it.